Good afternoon and thank you for joining us on FutureTV. I'm Linda Tamim and these are today's top stories. Jabhat al-Nusra releases a video of the captured soldiers and security personnel kidnapped in Arsal. A Palestinian family is killed in renewed Israeli shelling as Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas calls for the urgent resumption of the Cairo-mediated talks. At least 8 people are killed and 25 injured when a car bomb hit a military intelligence office in the Iraqi capital of Baghdad. Prime Minister Tamam Slam has voiced hope that all media outlets will address the thorny issue of the abducted Lebanese soldiers with care, urging that all efforts in that regard stay out of media focus. Salam stressed that the issue is very delicate and that we should be keen to preserve the soldiers' safety. He says the matter should be addressed with discretion because it has to do with the soldiers who defend their land and nation. Salam's message came as LBCI broadcast a 5-minute footage of the captured security personnel released by Jabhat al-Nusra. The footage shows the soldiers in good health delivering messages to their families. The soldiers, along with security forces, were abducted by Islamist militants in Arsal at the end of clashes between the army and the gunmen in the northeastern town earlier this month. A Muslim Scholars Committee delegation had announced on Friday that it was suspending its negotiations efforts to release the captives, saying it will pave the way for other initiatives to that end. Lebanese Army Commander General Jean Ahwaji has defended himself and his troops against criticism directed at the military institution following the Arsal battle, saying he will never trade the lives of Lebanese in exchange for political gains. At the beginning of the Arsal clashes, lawmakers from the Future Bloc had accused Ahwaji, seen as a favorable presidential candidate, of seeking to become a president at the expense of people in Arsal. But the head of the Future movement, Saad Hariri, voiced his party's undying support for the army to liberate the town from militants. On August 2nd, following the army's arrest of Imad Jum'a, the head of an ISIS brigade, militants from Syria attacked the several army and police posts in Arsal and engaged in 5 days of clashes with the military that ended with a ceasefire. Ahwaji hit back at the military's critics, who scorned the army for taking too long to end the battle, saying he spared the lives of Arsal residents and Syrian refugees by refraining from striking Arsal. Tripoli MP Mohamed Kabara has called for justice for the victims of the bombings of 2 mosques in Tripoli on the occasion of the first commemoration of the blasts. The MP accused the subordinates of Bashar al-Assad's regime of carrying out terrorist attacks and demanded that former Lebanese politician Michel Smeha stand trial as soon as possible for his ties to the terrorist attack. Lebanese forces leader Samir Jarja says Lebanon will be the end of ISIS fighters if they decide to come, and adds he will not withdraw from the presidential race without a solution to the impasse. Jarja also said that Lebanon should close its borders to prevent the infiltration of ISIS fighters via the porous Syrian-Lebanese boundary, blaming Hezbollah for the government's failure to seal off the frontier. Jarja, one of the March 14 coalition's main figures, sounded pessimistic when talking about the presidential stalemate, saying he would be committing political suicide if he withdrew from the race without a solution. The MP said the presidential vacuum suited Hezbollah, especially after the party's experience with former President Michel Sleiman, who repeatedly criticized the group over its involvement in the Syrian conflict. Moving on to Gaza, 7 people have been killed, including 5 Palestinians from the same family, as Israeli warplanes pounded the area. Medics say the strike, which leveled a home in Al-Zawaida in central Gaza, was the deadliest. Another 7 Palestinians were reportedly wounded in an Israeli strike that struck a house in Zaytun, east of Gaza City. Witnesses and Palestinian officials said 2 mosques were destroyed in the Khan Yunis area of southern Gaza, while a third in the Shati refugee camp, which had already been damaged, was bombed again. The Israeli military said it had carried out about 20 airstrikes over the Gaza Strip early today. Meanwhile, Hamas said it will support a Palestinian effort to investigate war crimes in the conflict. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has called for the urgent resumption of the Cairo-mediated talks between Israel and the Palestinians to end the Gaza crisis that entered its 47th day now. Abbas's appeal came during a news conference after meeting with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, in which he added the final solution to the Gaza crisis will be proposed before the Arab League based on the Egyptian proposal. Reports say the Palestinian president and Hamas's exiled leader Khalid Mashal issued an appeal on Friday urging the UN to draw up a timetable for the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories to end. The two Palestinian leaders held talks in Doha, which were hosted by the Emir of Qatar, a key backer of Hamas. Meanwhile, a senior Hamas leader who has been taking part in the Cairo negotiations has confirmed that the group will back any Palestinian bid to join the International Criminal Court. Palestinians accuse Israel of war crimes in Gaza because of its attacks on civilians. If Palestine did join the ICC, it would mean Hamas could also be investigated. British Ambassador to the UN, Mr. Mark Lyle Grant, says European powers are considering the idea of creating a monitoring mechanism for any future Gaza ceasefire to prevent future conflicts. The proposal was contained in an outline for a possible draft resolution prepared by 3 European powers, Britain, France and Germany. United Nations Security Council diplomats said on condition of anonymity that the trio is discussing the proposal with several of the 15 council members, including the United States and Jordan, as well as non-council members Israel and Egypt.
European 3 countries have been discussing with other members of the Council elements for a resolution. We hope that the Council will come together around a single draft resolution that can be adopted quickly. That is what we're working on, but we have strong views on what needs to be included in any resolution, and that is that it should set out the clear parameters for a sustainable ceasefire, that there must be no return to the status quo ante, and that any resolution helps to ensure that this crisis does not break out again in a few months or a few years' time. What we think is there needs to be an international and credible monitoring and verification mechanism. That was what was lacking in Resolution 1860. And clearly there needs to be some assurances for Israel's security, but at the same time there need to be assurances that the Gazans can live in peace and security and undertake proper economic activity. And that is what an international verification and monitoring mechanism could do.
And still to come in our program, Russian-aid trucks return from eastern Ukraine amid criticism from the West. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Some of the Russian-aid trucks have returned from rebel-held eastern Ukraine to Russian territory amid a storm of anger expressed by Western capitals after the convoy entered Ukraine without the permission of the Kiev government. The development comes as German Chancellor Angela Merkel arrived in the capital of Kiev and pushed for a ceasefire between pro-Russia fighters and Ukraine. The West had demanded that Russia withdraw its disputed trucks after the Kremlin unilaterally sent them to the rebel stronghold of Lugansk on Friday, in a move Kiev decried as invasion. Reports say about 220 white-painted trucks set to be loaded with tinned food and bottled water crossed into the Ukrainian territory on Friday. Kiev had expressed repeated fears that Russia may be using the vehicles to smuggle in weapons to pro-Kremlin rebels, a charge denied by Russia. British Ambassador to the UN Mark Lyle Grant calls Russia's aid convoy move into Ukraine an undeniable and blatant violation of Ukrainian sovereignty after a closed-door meeting of the United Nations Security Council.
The United Kingdom is deeply concerned about this provocative and unilateral action. It is an undeniable and blatant violation of Ukrainian sovereignty and a clear breach of international law and the UN Charter. It has nothing to do with humanitarianism. That humanitarian effort is being coordinated by the United Nations, and if the Russian Federation wanted to participate in that, it could do so in a collective way rather than acting unilaterally.
Moving on to Iraq, at least 8 people have been killed and 25 were injured when a car bomb hit a military intelligence office in the Iraqi capital of Baghdad. Today's explosion targeted the Karada neighborhood where the intelligence office, which also houses a police station, is located. The attack came a day after a Shia armed group killed at least 73 Muslim worshippers at a village mosque in Diyala province, raising the prospect of revenge attacks as politicians try to form a government capable of countering the Islamic State group. Advanced by the Islamic State through northern Iraq has also alarmed the Baghdad government and its Western allies. This comes as U.S. Vice President Joe Biden said the U.S. was prepared to help Iraq pursue a federal system that would decentralize power away from Baghdad, but he says sectarian divisions are fueling extremist movements like the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. The ALS Ice Bucket Challenge has taken the world by storm recently, raising more than $41 million, according to the New York Times. The challenge doesn't always go as planned, however. Here is a compilation of how the challenge sometimes takes a wrong turn. Enjoy.
Okay. It just broke! What's the name? Queen Greeless.
Oh boy. Oh. You missed! Foundation. 3, 2,
This is really heavy. Okay, ready? 2, 3. Oh, fuck. Shit, I got it! That's so... America! Oh, God, man.
To complete this assignment, or donate $100 to ALS. Okay, here we go.
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our top stories. Jabhat al-Nusra releases a video of the captured soldiers and security personnel kidnapped in Assal. A Palestinian family is killed in renewed Israeli shelling as Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas calls for the urgent resumption of the Cairo-mediated talks. At least 8 people are killed and 25 injured when a car bomb hit a military intelligence office in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. Those are your top stories for today. I'm Linda Tamim, wishing you all a very pleasant weekend.
المساعدة على الثلاث ممنوع يكون